appreciate you all coming straight to the Lecture Theatre this morning on the first Monday of Decorex. My name is Elspeth Pridham, and you can find me, I'm a design journalist, and you can find me on the website The Insider, and I'm very, very happy today to be talking to Katy Stevenson Bretton, who is a business coach, and you can find her on her website Design and Align. Now, we're going to chat away for about half an hour, although that's quite hard because we'll have to edit ourselves. There will be time for questions at the end. We do then have to move out of here quite quickly so that the next lot can come in. But Katy and I will be round the corner. Apparently there's some tables and bits, so if anyone does have a question that we didn't have time to get to, or just didn't want to put up their hand in a crowd, do come and chat to us afterwards, because we'll be round the corner. Okay, let's start. Katy, let's talk about you.
Okay.
How did you become a business coach?
In quite a long and winding path. So I started my career, I worked in the public sector for a number of years. I worked in London City Hall with Boris Johnson, and I managed these kind of big infrastructure projects, multi-million-pound grants. You know, what do you want London to be like 30 years from now type stuff. And I loved it. And then I had my first son. And that thing that so many of us experience between trying to do that job and trying to do the job of being a mum and doing both of them badly. And I had this creative itch that I really wanted to scratch. I'd been renovating property on the side, and I realized, put my thinking hat on, and went, I'm making more money doing that than I am on my prorated salary. Now I'm doing 3 days a week, and I love this. Time to leave that. So I left the public sector, and I had all of this construction experience, but I didn't have any design training. So I did a short course at Central St Martin's, trained to be an interior designer, and started working and started doing work for friends, and then friends of friends, and then actually people who didn't know me at all, and that was exciting. And then I had my second son, and I realized after that point that I didn't want to do it on my own anymore, and I partnered with somebody, a really good friend, she's here somewhere, and amazing collaborator, and just the most brilliant designer. And that gave me so much confidence, because suddenly it wasn't a client coming to me and saying, can you do this for my house? And me thinking, I hope so. It was now, you bet I can, because I've got this amazing designer and we're working together. And so that taught me so much, not just about designing, but about running an interior design business, because there was two of us. There was two salaries, there was dividends, we had a team, we had a studio. We had to really learn to run and grow the business. And I learned so much during that time. But what we also learned, the two of us, was that we weren't brilliantly suited to working together. We were brilliant friends, great collaborators, but we wanted different things. Mm-hmm. So we made the decision that we were going to go off and do our own thing. And in that time, I was giving myself this breathing space to think, what next? Just sit with the discomfort of not knowing what's next, which for a really goal-oriented person is actually really difficult. But in that time, another designer came to me and said, you know about business. I can tell you understand business. Can you help me with mine? Mm-hmm. And it was like a light just went on, and it was realizing all of the stuff from my public sector days, all that stuff I'd loved, the kind of big picture, strategic work, I could bring together in helping people with their businesses. So what started was essentially consulting, because I wasn't trained as a coach at this point. I was a consultant for this designer. And doing that was great, because I could say to her, well, this is what I did, or this is what I think, or this is what I would suggest. But I became really, really fascinated. I've always been interested in how people think, how their beliefs drive their thinking, how we can hold ourselves back with beliefs. And so I've gone deeper down into a route of coaching, which is really more supporting people to grow their businesses in their way.
And do you very much, obviously, because you have done the interior design side as well, do you very much concentrate on interior designers, so coaching for interior designers? Yeah. So it's very specific. You've got the business acumen, but you understand interior design from having been one, and so that those two are coming together. Yeah. I think before we go any further, can you clarify for us the difference between a business coach, which is what you are, a mentor, and a consultant. What are those three? Because they are three different things, aren't they?
They're three different things, and I say to my clients, I'll wear all three of those hats. So with a consultant, it's I've got industry standard information or strategy that I can share with you. Mm-hmm. Feel free to take what works, leave what doesn't, but I can share this industry standard business advice. That's consulting. Mentoring is I will share from my experience. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what I did. I'll share from what happened when I tried this or tried that. That's mentoring, someone telling you from their own experience. Coaching is presuming that somebody has all of the answers themselves and asking the right questions to unlock that. So shining a torch where they might not have thought to look, and just by asking questions and by seeing blind spots and by recognizing where people are holding themselves back, you can get them to move forward and get to where they really want to get to without it just being about imposing this is what you need to do.
So it's a more organic growth almost, and so it's finding the strengths and the skills within you and channeling them maybe in a better direction than you were before. Yeah. Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. So hopefully that made perfect sense to you. So business coach, that's great. And at what point would an interior designer come to you? Is it somebody who's starting their business, or would they come to you when they've been going along in a certain route but they feel they want to change direction? When is the prime time to come to you?
So there's no prime. I mean, I work with designers at all stage of their business, and I genuinely don't care what stage somebody is at, but what I do care is if they're ready. Yeah. Because if you've got that excitement and desire to grow your business, then we can work together. If you're doing it and you're thinking, God, I should be doing this, but my heart's not in it, you won't get anything out of it. So I've worked with people who haven't even registered their company yet, really at the very beginnings, and I've worked with, 7-figure, very, very established, top 100, every end of the spectrum, larger businesses.
And I kind of visualise people coming to you when they've got maybe a specific problem or a niggle that they can't get by. But is it also a good idea to maybe just have a sort of top up and just come and talk to you at some point, even if you think you're going along okay, just to kind of reassure yourself that you're doing a service?
You're asking the question that everybody asks me, which is, well, I'd love to work with you, but I don't want to go in for the whole thing. Can we just do a one-off? And the answer is always no. Well, it's not always no, because I do occasionally do one-off sessions, but I offer them strategically in between other things that I'm doing. And the reason for that is because whether it's private coaching or whether it's group coaching, I've really spent time thinking, how will people get the best results? What's the format? What's the length? What's the work that we're going to do together that will genuinely get them from here to where they want to go? Yeah. Because there's no point. And this is, for interior designers as well. If you have a client who comes to you and says, well, I don't want a full interior design, I just want a 1-hour consultation, you have to be the expert and say, you're not going to get the beautiful home of your dreams with a 1-hour consultation. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. And so it's about being that expert and really understanding your process and knowing what's going to get somebody what they actually want, and being prepared to not bend just because somebody says, oh, well, this is how I'd like you to do things.
Yeah. And it's valuing yourself and your services, which I'm sure is what you're then coaching your clients to do. Yeah. So this session today is Grow Your Business. So let's get to the nitty-gritty. How can an interior designer grow their business? What are the key factors they should be considering? Over to you, Katy.
Okay,
so you're getting some free advice here, guys, so get your pens out.
Free advice, and I knew you were going to ask me something like this, so I thought, okay, how am I going to make it memorable? I've got 3 things, I've got 3 Ps. The first is positioning. So there are so many interior designers out there. You all know this, right? The market is saturated, but that doesn't mean there's not enough work for everybody. What it means is you have to know who you're for, why you're doing what you do, what it is that you do, who you're here to serve, and be able to articulate that to your clients. That's your kind of market positioning piece. Because if you're just positioning yourself as I'll do anything, I'll take on anyone, not only do you have no standards and it's hard for people to know what you do and if you can help them. It's hard for people to recommend you because it's, oh, well, she sort of does interior design, but I don't know if she does commercial. She might do a house like yours. I don't know if she would go outside of the M25. If you're so clear on who you serve, you've positioned yourself really clearly, then it's easier for you to know what to say yes and no to, and it's easier for people to recommend you as well. So that's the first, positioning. The second P is pricing. Obviously, there are so many ways to price in this business, and there are so many ways that people are pricing, and if anybody's seen me talk at any length, they will know, they'll be so sick of me saying, don't price by hourly rates, but it's so true. If you're pricing using hourly rates, you're giving away all of your creative expertise, all of those ideas, your best thinking. You know, when you have those ideas, you're in the shower in the morning and you have this amazing idea. How do you charge for that? If you're going on an hourly rate, that like 20-second ideas, you've been paid about 50 pence for it. So you're also setting yourself up for a relationship with the client where you're allowing them to chip away at your pricing and say, well, can you do it faster? And, oh, well, if you do it faster, can you give me some money back? So pricing your services in a way that conveys that your creative expertise has nothing to do with how long it takes is really important. And on pricing, I always think there's this kind of sweet spot. If you think the Venn diagram, there's this sweet spot between a price that you feel really excited about, a price for that project when you're thinking about the project and you're thinking, how should I price this? We can't be using formulas. Formulas don't work because it's a bespoke service. If it's a bespoke service, it's a bespoke price. And so it's always going to be different for every client and every project. So you need to think, what's the price that would really excite you? Not, it needs to be grounded in reality, but it needs to feel really exciting. What is the value of this work to this client? So if a client has spent £10 million on their house, you're not going to go in and charge them £1,000. It's what's the value to this client of having this work done brilliantly, having you take all the decisions off their hands, you coordinating the process, helping them come to what feels like a beautiful design for them. I'm doing my house at the moment, and I can assure you there is a lot of value in that. And being really solid on just understanding your client, asking the questions at the beginning that allow you to know what's this worth to them to have this work done. So it's what's it worth and what price would feel really good. And then the third part is what can you get your energy behind? Because it's nice to say, well, I'm going to charge £100,000 for this project, but if you cannot sell that, it would make you feel sick at the thought of it, there's no point. So it has to be this kind of sweet spot between something where you're pricing from your highest self. You're really thinking, what is the value of what I do? It is huge. What's it worth to this client? And what can I really get my energy behind? And I'm a big yoga fan, so I always think of it's the difference between stretching yourself and straining yourself. So it's not straining that it's uncomfortable and painful and it just feels so awful to send out the fee proposal. But you're stretching yourself. You're thinking, I'm going to work with this client for a year, maybe more. That needs to be worth something to me. And if I get it wrong, that's going to make a hard year for my business because I'm going to be having to take on so much else to compensate for it. So that was a long one. So we've got positioning, we've got pricing. And the third one is actually two words. It's personal power. And what I mean by that is being prepared to do things that feel scary, being so committed to what you're doing that you're prepared to expand out of your comfort zone, that you're prepared to price beyond where you've priced before, that you're prepared to invest in marketing your services, not knowing whether you're going to get results. Marketing is always a bit of trial and error, but you're prepared to do that because you so believe in what you're bringing. So really really feeling that power in yourself, being boundaried with your clients, being boundaried with yourself about what you say yes to and no to, and approaching all of your work, all of your conversations with your clients, your suppliers, your team, whatever it is, from this place of empowerment, from thinking, I know what I'm here to do, I know who I'm here to serve, and I'm so excited about doing it, and I'm going to be really empowered about the way I do it.
I'm quite fascinated because I'm so listening to what you're saying. I think I'm just going to go home and crack on with my business. But this is a very female industry, isn't it? And we were just sort of slightly chatting off camera earlier about how women, I think it is changing, but we don't value what we do as much as men. And I think putting a price or a value on our work is quite a mindset step to get over, isn't it? And I imagine a lot of people you talk to, they know they should be charging more, but they do feel uncomfortable with it. How can you slightly push yourself so you say, as you say, you're reaching rather than, or stretching rather than straining?
So with my clients, we always start with strategy, so we can anchor to something. So where you start is how much does it cost to run your business and how much do you want to pay yourself? You know, I have clients who come to me and say, oh, I don't mind if this business doesn't earn any money at all. And I say, well, that's not a business, that's a hobby. But I also have people who come to me and say, well, within a year, I'd like to be earning £1 million. Okay. But you have to ground it in reality. You know, know your numbers. What does it cost to run the business? And then have a number that you want to pay yourself, which is how much do you need to pay yourself to make this viable for your life? And how much would you like to pay yourself that you think is a reflection? What does all that add up to? And you then look at your capacity. So say you have all of that, your costs and your the amount you want to pay yourself, and it all adds up to £100,000 a year, nice and neat. You have to think about your capacity. So I think for most designers, definitely working on your own, your maximum at any one time is 3 projects. You can go beyond that, but you feel like you're spinning too many plates. It starts feeling uncomfortable. 5 is a lot. With a team, it's doable. But even then, for a studio that's got a team of maybe 5 or 8 people, you still have to hold it in your head. So 5 projects is a comfortable number. If you're on your own, it's less. So you take that £100,000 and you take that capacity and you say, well, okay, each project I take on, if they're all going to be 12 months exactly, it's never an exact science, but it has to be worth £20,000. Because otherwise this business isn't viable and I can't pay myself. So that's the starting point, and that's what gives people the confidence, because you think, okay, we're not plucking numbers out of nowhere, we're actually basing it in something, we've got this on a spreadsheet. We've got a spreadsheet, guys. But then it becomes, okay, well then what is the value to this client? So when I work with my private clients, we approach every fee proposal together and we really go deep. But this is about asking good questions. We will often come and bring all of our perceptions about money and what money is to us and what money is to somebody else. And the fact is, interior design is a very elite service. It is only available to a certain number of people. Fact. And getting past that is part of it, but also being able to speak to people who will have more money than you, who will have a different idea of what represents good value, what represents expensive, what represents cheap. If we price and do a fee proposal, look at it and go, oh, £10,000, oh God, that feels expensive, £200, we just end up lowballing ourselves. But the worst thing is the client loses out, because if you end up pricing something so cheap that you cannot provide the service and you have to take on more, or you start resenting the client because you're thinking, I'm doing all of this work and I've been paid £200, nobody wins. So it's understanding that you are providing a service. Selling is serving, really. It's not about, we've all got these kind of ideas in our heads of the kind of greasy-haired car salesman and ramming a sale down your throat. It's not about that. You're here, if you lead from that place of service, if you genuinely believe, I want to do work for people who I love, and I want them to enjoy what I do, I want them to enjoy the process, and I want to make it brilliant for them, what is the price that this needs to be to enable that to happen, then
that sounds really positive. So it's getting the strategies in place so you really understand your business, you understand your pricing, you understand what you need to earn from it, and that in itself should give you the mindset to believe that you can go. So it's strategies and mindset, isn't it? Is kind of what you're all about. Okay, no, that's really interesting. And obviously you just touched on it there, but asking the clients a lot of questions so you make sure that you are really tuning in to who they are and what they can afford.
Totally. This is where you are able to price in a way that is meaningful. So what I never say to clients, if you've got a consultation service, that's fine. You can have, consultation service, standardized price, £1,000 for whatever they get within that package. That's cool. But as long as it's bespoke full service and it's a bespoke service, we're making a bespoke price. And therefore, we have to understand the client. And it's also just good. It's a good approach to any project. This is, interior design is a very intimate process. You're going to know, do they like to read when they're in the bathroom? What side do they want the toilet roll holder on? All of this stuff. So you have to have that connection and that rapport. And if you get that early on and you show that you're prepared to listen and understand what's really driving this project. Like, I know you're saying, well, we want to do a house renovation and we want an ensuite bathroom, but what's below that? Because it's always will be driven by something more. They want more connection with their family. They've got this vision in their head of the kids all doing their homework at the kitchen table whilst they're cooking, or they've got this vision of claiming back time with their partner by having this kind of master suite. There's always a story below it, and if you can understand that, you can price it, because you're then pricing what this is really worth to the client. You're not saying, okay, well, the extension is going to be, £4,000 to design that. People don't buy the features of what you do, they buy the emotion behind it.
Interesting. And what are the 2 questions you're most asked by your clients? I bet there are repeat questions, are there?
How to find clients is a big one, and the kind of mindset shift that all of us as business owners, myself really included, need to make is we need to get out of thinking, have to go and find clients, have to go and hunt them down, where are they? Because we're in this place of scarcity and anxious and desperation, and it's like dating. If somebody comes across to you and they're like, okay, so do you want to go on a date? Can I give you my number and can we go out? You're like, oh, it's so repelling. And it's the same in business. If you genuinely approach it from a place of, oh, I can't wait to see what my next project will be. I'm so excited. But that's not just sit back and wonder what will happen. You're planting seeds. So you have to invest in marketing your business. I was held back for the longest time. I genuinely believed that I didn't want to look desperate by marketing my business. If I marketed, people would think that I was desperate, which is so stupid, because you think Coca-Cola, Apple, Nike, the biggest brands in the world spend billions on marketing and nobody thinks they're desperate. So you have to get over this idea of thinking, I'm here to tell people how I can help them. That's what getting my business out there is about. And if I plant enough seeds and I tell people in enough different ways, then people will start coming to me. They'll start approaching me and saying, oh, I have a project, instead of sitting there feeling scared, doing nothing, and then feeling anxious because you're in this kind of feast to famine. So the how to find clients is the question, but moving into how can I market my services so that clients come to me is kind of the answer. And then the pricing part, and people they'll always say, but I want a formula. What's the formula? And my answer is always, we'll do that strategic work that I've talked about, but pricing any kind of bespoke service is not about formulas. And if you can get on board with that, then you've got it within your power to really make your business fly and price in a way that's exciting to you and that's great for your client. It has to be fair. The best pricing feels fair to both parties. It doesn't matter what the number is. If it feels fair, then it's the right price. So, really the kind of art of pricing well is probably the thing we spend most time on.
Yeah, no, but I can understand, because I think it is obviously where a lot of people fall down. I can't believe it, we're getting fairly close on time already. So let's briefly outline, how do you work? Do people come to you, do you sit down with them, or is it Zoom meetings? How do you actually work with your clients?
So it's on Zoom, and that works because a lot of my clients, they might have a really small studio, but they're in a space with lots of other people. They don't have, want me traipsing in. They don't want, I don't want to be going all over the country. It means I can help people wherever they are, and it keeps it super efficient. All my clients are so busy. So, we do a 1-hour session. If it's private coaching, it's either 3, 6, or 9 months together, and we go really, really deep together. So we do all of the mindset stuff, but complete business overhaul, really, from how to market, position, price, as well as all the boundaries. If you need to hire, what's that going to look like? It's a really, their business becomes my business. I only take on 4 private clients at any one time, and I love working in that way with people. But I also do group coaching, which is for people at the newer stage of their business. I have a really lovely group at the moment of interior designers who are it's about the foundations of your business. So really getting those foundations right, because if you don't have them right, you can't scale. You're just scaling problems. So in that way, there's a kind of combination of pre-recorded trainings that I've put together and group coaching sessions.
That's great, because I imagine they can then pick up things from each other. They will have different problems or solutions for each other. So the group thing sounds quite nice.
And it's funny, a lot of people will come to me and say the interior design industry is so closed, it's so secret. And I recognise that. It's, I've made some amazing friends in this industry, but I recognise what they're saying. And so I think providing that forum where people can actually have those connections and have peers who are at the same stage of business as them is really important.
I'm just going to sort of finish off just quickly. I've just got one more question to ask you, really. We've talked quite a bit about mindset and how so many of these obstacles you can get over if you've got the right mindset and you've got a confidence. We're sitting chatting today, we're in front of an audience. You come across as very winning, very confident. You could sell me anything, to be honest, Katy. But it's all right for you because you are this outgoing person. How can you teach what you are? Where's the essence that we can learn from that?
I am the least outgoing person ever. My previous business partner will tell you, I'm a total introvert. And people will say to me, have you always been this confident? And the answer is no. I think I probably had a confident veneer when I was younger, but below that was a huge insecurity and a lot of disbelief that anybody would ever value they would ever be worth that much. A couple of things happened. One was when I made the decision to leave City Hall, my previous boss said to me, "You'll regret this," which was not very cool. But apart from that, it really made me think, I'm determined to not let that be true. And that's always driven me. But the other thing is, if you have a business, you have to reckon you're going to be in the spotlight in some way. And your business will fly or it will falter, depending on how committed you are to getting yourself out there. And I realized all these limits I'd imposed on myself, you're not an interior designer, or you're not a coach, or you can't price that much, was all self-imposed. And I didn't want to live a life that was about limits on me. And so that involved me having to take the steps to become more courageous in doing it. And the more steps you take, the more courageous you become. And you start getting feedback from people, and you think, I'm really helping people. What I'm doing is resonating, and people are taking value. And that gives you confidence. So it's the same for designers. You have to go first. You can't expect your clients to lead you and know that there's going to be work out there. You have to go first. But if you do, you will start getting those testimonials and that feedback and seeing the difference you're making. And then that really bolsters your confidence. And you start reflecting, what is it that's working? What am I doing well? What are people responding to? And it all helps.
So it is belief, isn't it? And like you say, you're the prime example of having the right mindset and being enthusiastic about what you're talking about. Yeah. That is going to carry you a very long way. And I think as women, we are all quite bad at shouting out and putting ourselves forward and not be seen as, we were chatting earlier about the words you're told as a little girl, being bossy, being a show-off. You know, boys aren't told these things. They're called confident and outgoing, and we need to be a bit more confident, outgoing, and believe in ourselves.
Totally. I mean, one of the biggest things that people come to me, probably not one of the first questions, but that always comes out is around boundaries. Everybody wants more balance and more freedom. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to get when you've been grown up being told, be polite, be obliging, you know, don't stand up too much, don't be bossy. You know, it's a really hard thing to start putting boundaries in place because we don't want to come across as challenging. But actually, so a lot of the work I end up doing with clients is where do we draw those boundary lines? Because I don't know if you're like me, but I mean, I'm on about 19 different WhatsApp groups, and that's just for my kids' social lives. You know, life is so full. It's full and it's hard and it's busy, and nobody wants to live like this in the way that life would allow you to live if you sort of went all in. Yeah. So starting to create those boundaries from that place of belief and personal power and run your business in a way that gives you the freedom. It has to be intentional. The freedom doesn't, just saying I'm going to work for myself is not freedom. It's being really intentional about how you cultivate that.
So it's running your business rather than the business running you.
Totally.
And hopefully that's the pointers that you can get us to.
Totally. I say it's like your business should be a vehicle that you're driving, not a monster that you're feeding.
Yeah. What a good little bon mot to finish on. That was so interesting. Obviously, I've been writing notes because I have my own business, so that's great. I've had my free session. Now, guys, there's so many people here. We really appreciate it. Has anybody got a question for Katy? There is a microphone that can whiz around. We've got a lady in the front here.
How to market yourself changes with time. What is the best way today for a small business?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
How to market yourself.
Oh, how to market, okay.
Changes with time.
Yeah.
It goes very quickly. And how would you recommend a small business to grow today through marketing?
So I would say start with word of mouth. Start by telling everybody in your personal network and your professional network what you do. And be really clear about that. Don't just say, I've set up as an interior designer. You know, be really clear about the area in which you work, the types of projects you do, why you do what you do. You know, allow them to feel the excitement, and it can almost be that they could then forward the email on to their friends and say, oh yeah, you're doing a house, I've got the perfect person. So start with word of mouth, but don't ultimately rely on it. There are loads of things that you can try marketing, and marketing is, a lot of it is trial and error. You can spend money and it might work and it might not work, and part of running a business is being prepared to make that investment. But I would say, a really good way is if you're doing a project, if you're in a street, drop letters through all of if it's a lovely street, put letters through the neighbours' doors and say, apologies for any noise, we're working on this project, here's my card and here's all my details. That's an immediate way you can do something. Online ads, if you're very targeted, Facebook, Instagram ads are still a pretty cost-effective and very good way to target. Again, it's all about knowing who you're here to serve, but I would be doing online and offline and just getting the word out in every single voice. And people say, what's the big thing? What's the big campaign? It's not about one big moment. It's about consistency. It's about every single week, it not being, oh God, my project's coming to an end, I need to do some marketing now. Marketing needs to be part of what you do every single day, week. Be thinking about it.
I'd just like to back Katy up on that. I was interviewing a very successful interior designer the other day, and he said he just went round his neighbourhood putting postcards through doors saying, I'm now an interior designer, and I think he put out about 400, and he got 2 calls back, but from those projects, word of mouth, and so sometimes just putting the legwork in can do it. Are there any more questions for Katy? There's a lady up at the back there, please.
Hello, thank you. With regard to setting your bespoke price at the outset of a project, I've had at least 2 projects where it's just the scale of it has just evolved, and that's, I've realised in retrospect, been largely down to the input that I had. In that, you open up a client's vision of what they might do. That they've both been sort of first time or second time refurbishment. So, if you do that, how often is it then, feasible or acceptable to review that? Because projects can change hugely in scope from the outset to the reality.
That's such a good question. So this comes back to asking really, really deep questions. Spend time asking the questions at the beginning so that your fee proposal can be really clear. This is what's in scope. So when you write your fee proposal and you give the price, these are the stages of work we're going through, and this is what's in scope. These are the rooms that we're designing for you. And you allow yourself within that to, this is the price. If the brief changes significantly, then, we will come back and have a conversation with you about that. But I would always say price in a way that allows you to not quibble over the small stuff. And if there's project managers in the room, I'm really sorry, because I know this is not how you do it, but nobody likes a change order. You don't like it, the client doesn't like it. Nobody wants, well, we've had to amend a drawing, so that's £125, and we put an extra half an hour here, so that's this. Nobody wants that. You don't want to track your time in that way. The client doesn't want tiny itty-bitty things. So price well from the start so that there is a certain amount of, if small stuff happens, that's part of your service. That's part of the premium service that you're providing. But allow yourself within your fee proposal to say, if the brief changes significantly, if you suddenly decide you want another bathroom, that's a material change, and we need to then reprice it.
It's tended to be more to do with the quality of the materials, and that you're therefore involved, and perhaps it also goes far more minimalist. So then all the details become really important. And the degree of information you're providing to the contractor, because this is now a really high value material and the details are important, and that's quite difficult to explain at the outset to a client. I realise I'm asking difficult questions, but
no,
I
you're
am
asking,
here and you're there.
You're asking really good questions, actually, and questions that everybody experiences. I think in part it's you learn this stuff from experience. So my business partner and I used to say, she has 20 years experience, and we would say we learn on every single project, and we did. And you take that experience into a conversation with the client at the beginning where you're saying, I know that you're thinking that you might want this. I'm going to tell you with my experience that you don't have the budget for that, or whatever it is. But on every project, you can do that look back and think, what's the conversation I wish I'd had with that client right at the beginning? But even if you're starting out, think about what could go wrong. What do I need to say? And this is where we cannot be pushing the can down the road of, well, I just don't want to have an awkward conversation. It's so much more valuable for you and for the client to say at the beginning, let's be really clear about your budget. This is what the scope of what I'm doing, this is the budget you've got, this is what we're working to. And then as soon as you've got any change, whether it's a change in the design, in the materials, you can have a really open conversation about it, because you've had that initial conversation that has set it all out, and there's been no shrinking from that. It's that early conversation, communicate early and often with the client will save you from all sorts of stuff.
Have we got any more questions out there? Oh, there's a lady down here, thank you. I'm just saying lady, I can't see.
Hi, I'm a traditional upholsterer and I would like to only work with trade. How do I approach interior designers on it's a very niche kind of material, and how do I approach them without sounding too needy? If that makes sense.
So two thoughts for you. Ask yourself, who do I want to serve, and come from a place of service. So it's not about you desperately needing the business, it's about your skills and your talents and how you can help people. So anchor to that. You've got a talent, you've got a skill, you know you need to help people with work that they want to do. So start with that, and then ask yourself, who are the people I want to get to and where are they? That's, you know, the basis of marketing. It's who's my audience and who else has got their attention. So, you know, off the top of my head, go through the list, you know, the house and garden, the list, who's on the top 100, speak to the BIID, you know, who has got a captive audience of my market and how can I get myself in front of them. But instead of coming from that, oh, I don't want to look desperate, think, I've got talents, I've got something that will help them. Every interior designer needs a good upholsterer. We do.
I'm really sorry, guys, but we have actually run out of time. Me and Katy are going to be round the corner here, so if there's anybody still with a question, we're more than happy to answer to you, speak to you, answer to you. I just want to say a huge thank you to Katy, because that was so informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much.